Halfway through hour number one, welcome back. I am Jim Rome. All right, I mentioned Michigan State is having an unbelievable year. They're coming off a dramatic win over then number 6 Wisconsin. Michigan State 6-1. They are number 9 in the AP poll. They're number 10 in the coaches poll. I am joined now by their senior quarterback. He is a 3-time team captain. He is the all-time winningest quarterback at Michigan State, and they're firing up for a huge game in Lincoln. Kirk Cousins joins me. Kirk, it's great to have you back on. How are you? My bad. Hey, Kirk, now I got you. What's up? How are you?
I'm doing well. It's an honor to be back in the jungle.
Kirk, great to have you back in the jungle. Thanks so much. Let's talk about the win over Wisconsin. First of all, one of the craziest Hail Mary passes that I think anybody has ever seen. The play is called Rocket. Take me through it. What were you looking to do with that pass?
Well, the goal as a quarterback is you just give your receivers a chance. So my biggest concern was don't overthrow it. Don't throw it out the back of the end zone. So I wanted to make sure I put it within that 10-yard range of the end zone and then leave the rest up to chance and a few good receivers. And fortunately, as you can see, the ball bounced our way.
Now, once you let that ball go, how much could you see of what was happening did you actually see? For instance, did you see that Keith Nichol had made that catch and that he got the ball over the goal line?
I could see the ball being tipped. I could see the catch, but I had no ability with depth perception to know exactly how close Keith was to the goal line. I thought we were about 1 or 2 yards short, and when I ran down to see where the ball was spotted and realized it was spotted on like the 1-inch line, I realized it was a lot closer than I had previously thought, and that was when I figured maybe we'd have a chance in replay.
How often do you guys practice that play?
Well, we practice it on air with no defenders every single week on Thursday. It's the last thing we do before we head off the field on Thursday's practice. And so we rehearse it and even practice the tip in terms of the rebound so that Keith is ready for a possible rebound. But we don't do it against the defense and just practice basically the rehearsal, the motion of it. But certainly you got to have some luck fall your way at the same time.
Hey, Kirk, I'm not the smartest guy, but I would imagine it's probably tougher to execute when there's other guys out there trying to defend it in a game situation.
Oh, absolutely. They know what's coming. It's just a matter of are you going to be able to put it in a spot and hopefully have a receiver go up and make a great catch or have a tip fall into your arms. And the latter was what happened. But if you look at other Hail Marys, that's typically the way it is. Flutie to Phelan or Cordell Stewart at Michigan or Northwestern when they won on victory right about 10 years ago. It's the same kind of thing. Things haven't changed. People are still trying to execute Hail Marys the same way.
Kirk Cousins joining us, Michigan State quarterback. You mentioned that you guys practice the tip. You don't practice it bouncing off a guy's face mask the way it did B.J. Cunningham, though, do you?
No, we don't expect it to bounce off a face mask, and we got a favorable bounce there. And what's funny is that B.J. probably has our best hands on our entire team, and if anybody was going to be able to come down with it in the crowd, it'd be him. But I guess it was his face mask that did the work for us this time, not his hands.
Kirk, talk about Keith Nichol for a minute. I think most people know that when he first got there, he wanted to play quarterback and battled it out with you. Talk about what it meant for him to make that play because he's been so unselfish. He's been grinding it out. He's done what's been asked of him. Did it mean even more that it was he was the guy who made that play?
I think so. If you know Keith, you realize how special of a story it is. And he came back here as a quarterback, and we competed for the opportunity to start here at Michigan State 2 years ago. And when it ended up that I was playing a little bit more, they decided to move Keith to wide receiver because we felt we had a need there. And he worked very, very hard to develop himself as a wide receiver. His work ethic is second to none on our team, and he's developed into quite a wide receiver. And for him to be able to go down on that play and make that catch, I think was really fitting, and you couldn't have written a better script. We were talking to Kirk Cousins, and you could probably tell 3-time team captain, Michigan State senior quarterback. Kirk, you guys are in this gauntlet right now where it is so tough. It's just an absolute grinder. But you're having this amazing year where you beat Ohio State, you beat Michigan, and nobody had to tell you just how big this game was. Then you fall behind quickly 14-0, going up against a power like Wisconsin. That train could have come off the tracks. Falling behind like that early on, what were you thinking? What was the mood on the sideline? It was tough. There was so much energy in Spartan Stadium with College game day being there in the morning and all the energy being built up all day. For a night game, all the fans tailgating. I mean, they were excited in warm-ups and as we ran out on the field. And to start off 14-0 was not the way to go. And the fans were, were pretty disappointed, but they hung in there with us, and you got to credit them. And our team, really, we talked about the fact that Wisconsin was a good enough football team to where things weren't going to always go our way. They were going to make some plays too, and we understood it was going to be a long game and it was going to go back and forth. So we just wanted to make sure that we kept believing and stayed true to character and showed the maturity in our football team. And I think we did that. Now, how do you continue to get up week after week emotionally? I mean, you get through a game like that, a huge, huge price to pay emotionally and physically, and that's after Michigan, after Ohio State, and now you've got to go to Lincoln and deal with Nebraska. So how do you maintain that edge? That's the challenge of playing big-time college football. We saw our schedule back when they realigned the conference last spring, and they released all the new schedules, and we realized our October slate was going to be as tough as anybody in the country, going to Ohio State and then playing an undefeated Michigan and an undefeated Wisconsin, and now going out to Nebraska. It's a challenge, but that's what you sign up for when you're recruited and come to the Big Ten, and you expect that, and that's really, frankly, why you come here, is for opportunities like the one we have this coming Saturday, the one we had this past Saturday, and hopefully we can finish out this October slate and get on to November with an undefeated record in October.
Kirk, in a way, you kind of answered my next question, but I think you can elaborate on it. When we talk about what it's like to play major college football, what it's like to play in that conference, it brings me back to the speech that you made during Big Ten Media Days. You were chosen to give the annual players speech, which is certainly an honor, but even those who were in the room said that they've never seen one hit the way yours hit, and it became viral. Talk about your message and talk about the speech. What were you trying to impart that day?
Well, the focus of my message was really to emphasize the opportunity that we have as college athletes, how special and unique it really is, and at the same time how it's human nature to really not take advantage of that opportunity and not appreciate that opportunity while you're in the midst of it. And I wanted to communicate the fact, really speaking to my peers, that the opportunity to play the college football in the Big Ten is second to none, and we need to take advantage of it and enjoy it and appreciate it and make good use of it while we're in the moment, and understand that we could really make quite a difference and really change the youth culture of America if we focus on doing the right things and operating in the right way in our time here while we have a platform playing football in the Big Ten.
Hey, Kirk, remind me, how old are you, 35?
Just turned 23 in August.
I mean, are you a college quarterback or a U.S. senator? What's your deal?
Maybe someday, but right now, college quarterback, and I got my hands full with the Nebraska defense right now. I don't know if I'd be ready to start passing laws or running political campaigns.
All right, so two last things. What about that? I mean, they're a great addition, in my opinion, to the conference. Do you have any idea what you're in store for in going to Lincoln, and talk about that challenge that's ahead?
Well, first of all, with Coach Pelini at the head of Nebraska's team, you're going to have a great defense that's going to bring a lot of different looks and challenge you. And when you go play in a stadium that's literally a sea of red, it's tough. And I believe that the stadium on Saturdays in Lincoln is the third largest city in Nebraska. So that just says all it needs to say about how special of a place that is. And with all the tradition they've had there, it's a great opportunity. But certainly when I came to Michigan State in 2007, I never thought we'd be playing at Nebraska before I left.
To that point, last thought, I love the story. Talk about how you ended up in Michigan State, because you knew you were going to play some college football, but not necessarily there. Initially, they did not offer you a scholarship. Did you go there with a plan, and talk about what that plan was?
Well, typically high school quarterbacks get heavily recruited after their junior year of high school and their junior season, and I broke my ankle my junior season, which set me back somewhat. I played at a smaller high school, which set me back as well, and I really relied on my senior year to help my recruitment, but by that time, most of the major schools, including Michigan State, had found a quarterback for that recruiting class and weren't needing to look further. And so I was hoping to play in a school like a Western Michigan or a Toledo in the Mid-American Conference, and I was fortunate enough to get scholarships from them after my senior season ended. But Michigan State came in due to a coaching change and a lot happening in those last few months before signing day in February. Michigan State came in and offered me a scholarship, and I was able to come, but was still sort of a low man on the radar, and wanted to really prove myself in my first year there, and I just kept working my way up.
Hey, Kirk, you're going to close this show, or at least this interview, with something right now that I think is great. It's actually written on the wall in the locker room, something you've talked about in the past. When the team tied for the Big Ten title last year, you said it was the result of, quote, 1,000 invisible mornings. Championships are built on 1,000 invisible mornings. What does that mean?
Well, our strength coach, Coach Ken Manny, has always emphasized that quote and talked about how the work that everyone puts in here on this team is not going to be seen by the outside, but the pride and the glory that we could achieve as champions of the Big Ten or champions nationally, that kind of thing will be remembered forever. And the fact of the matter is that we have to put in that invisible work when no one's watching to turn into champions. And I think that's the focus of that quote and the focus of our strength coach. And so we're constantly putting in that work when no one's watching, so that someday we can dance under the lights.
Senator, you nailed it again. You did it last year when you came on, and you just crushed it once again. 6-1. Got a senior quarterback. They've got a game coming up against Nebraska this weekend in Lincoln. Kirk, great to have you back on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I love listening to your show, and thanks for having me back in the jungle.
Kirk, you're the best. Very impressive young man. Extremely impressive young man. Did he say he was 23? Going on 38? I always say it when I talk to a guy like that, I would buy stock if I could. If I could buy stock in that guy right now, I'd buy it, even if it wasn't like ground floor opportunity, because you know it's only going to go up. He's going to be a senator one day, I'm sure. President Cousins does not sound bad. Go get him, Senator. Man, that kid is so smooth. Very, very bright. Very bright. Done this a long, long, long time, and I don't know that I've ever interviewed somebody in college who came off that well. All right, so reaction. That was a college senior. Yeah, I've done this a very, very long time. I don't know that I've ever spoken to a pro who came off that well. I don't know that I've ever spoken to a retired athlete that came off that well. I don't know that I've ever spoken to a coach that came off that well. That was not a good interview for a college kid. That was a great interview, period, regardless of age, experience, job title, job description. He was that good. And you can see where a guy who was not recruited heavily, well, not recruited with a scholarship there, who maybe didn't have the size, maybe didn't have the physical tools necessarily, at least not on paper, to play in the Big Ten. You can see where a guy like that could end up there and do as well as he has. Very competitive, very smart, very dedicated. And again, very smart. But being smart's not good enough to get you over in the Big Ten. Michigan State v. Nebraska, great matchup. Great matchup. I love everybody's first trip in the conference through Lincoln. All right, so what do you think is going to happen?